But this is a sunset scene from near where we live in Montreal on the water. Well, we don't live on the water, but we can go down to the water. And so I thought this was nice with the sort of sunset, and this is going to be a silhouette tree. So I'll make the tree out of wire after, and this was my preliminary one that I did. So what I'm going to do now is just go for it and just play around with it. And I'm not too concerned how realistic it's going to be, but I do want to make this just an impression of a background, and then I could do the tree on top. Hi, Audrey. So let's get going. So what you're going to need are brushes. So I have a variety of brushes, you need different sizes. These are watercolor brushes. So this, when you want to get a lot of water on there, you need a thicker brush, and then you need some thinner brushes for the details. I don't like paper towels, so I just use a cloth, and then I have a pot of water, just a yogurt pot, and a sponge. So I'm not going to be using the salt and the other techniques for this one. I do have tutorials on how to do that on the other channel. Hi Paula, how are you? And Miss Wee Dad, nice. The sunset's wonderful, thank you. So I have a couple of different palettes that I use. I have this one, which is my traditional palette that I'll be using today, and it has a bunch of the colors on there. And I think in the watercolor tutorial on the other channel, I actually say what colors I have. So I have some favorite colors for sure. So we're gonna put that at the side. And then I do have this other palette that I'm not using today. It's a Stuart Semple palette, and he's got lots of really interesting colors as well. So I might dive into those as well, but I'll stick with my traditional palette today. Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, a little busy this time of year, but you need to just take a break and do some art therapy sometime. So what I've done now is I've actually taped down the watercolor, because when you paint, the paper gets wet and it'll bubble, but when it dries, it'll shrink back because it's taped down to the page. And I already have a frame that I know I'm going to put this in, so I've already drawn out the dimensions of the piece, so I know what to do. So hi Tasneem, how are you? Nice. So yeah, so there, let's get painting. Tasneem, today we're not doing wire art, we're actually doing paintings. So that's what we're going to do today, and then I'll eventually just take the video down and put it on my art channel. So let's get started. Hopefully Mustafa is going to hop on, because he's the one that requested this. So we're just going to see. You're doing great. That's awesome. Fantastic. So let's go ahead and paint. So usually what I like to try to do is start with a little bit of yellow. I'm going to try to bring these colors in here so you guys can actually see them a little bit. I should actually have this camera up a little bit more. I'm just going to move it over a little bit more so we can, there we go. So we can move it over here. Then you're going to see a little bit more of my colors. So that'll be good. And I'm just going to start, I'm going to get some water. You can't see it off camera, but I'm dipping this one in. I put some water in there, and then I'm going to get a little bit of my yellow. Okay, just a little bit of my yellow there, dip it in. And then I'm just going to, there seems to be a lot of yellow across the bottom. So we're just going to do a little bit of the yellow. And I have my original, I wish I could show you everything, but I have the piece that I'm working for. I'll keep it at the side. So we're just going to do, basically you just want to keep the paper quite wet. So we're going to go in there. I'll take a little bit of the orange, and we can stick some orange in there. Now, if your colors are too intense, you can add opposite colors to tone them down a little bit, and see if you get little lumps like that, you can just take them out. It's not a problem. And then I really like this magenta color, so I'm gonna go like this. Hi Peggy, watching silent. All right, yeah, regular masking tape. Yeah, it's regular masking tape, but sometimes the masking tape from the dollar store can be a little bit too sticky, because this one I'm not too concerned about because I'm gonna put it in a frame, but when I put them on my when I put them on cards, I don't like to tear the paper. So you can use painter's tape, which might be a little bit better, so it doesn't kind of buckle up and stuff. So yeah, so now I'm just going through and just adding, you know, some different colors. I don't want to make it too muddy, so I'm going to try not to go in too much with it. And then the purple is really pretty too. There's quite a bit of purple in the sky, so I'm going to add a bit of purple. I'm going to keep it pretty subtle. I'm going to try to get it like a little bit of darkness, but not too much, because I don't want it to I don't want it to be too dark, but also I don't want it to be too light either. So you can always like kind of rub areas off. Like if you put something down and you don't like it, you can always get a sponge and sponge it up as well. So as we get down to the horizon, it's like a little bit lighter, so we're going to go down there and just we can add some little colors in there a little bit more. Maybe if you need to brighten it up a bit, just get a little more yellow and just bring it in here. I got a little hair in there, so we're going to do okay, low tack. Yeah, I think that would be better. Yeah, not too sticky would be good. So then if we want to go down in the water, we're just going to like go in there and just keep it like pretty simple. I'm going to do like a kind of a horizon thing after. So I'm just going to bring it up to here. I don't want it to bleed up too much. So we're going to just try to keep it open a little bit. I tend to, my problem with watercolor is I tend to block in areas too much. I don't work traditionally. Like I know a lot of people work where they keep a lot of the whites of the paper showing, and that's, I think my downfall is I'm not always good at keeping the white spaces open, and it tends to get a little bit, how do you say, not muddy, but a little blocked in. I've got a little hair on there, so I'll just take that off. I think it's stuck in the tape. That's my problem. So let me just get that one out. Yeah, because it got stuck in the tape. There we go. Perfect. The sky is pretty, eh? And it's very simple. Like you see, it's a super simple, and you really just need a few strokes to make it look interesting. So now if I want to like blend some other shades of blue in there, might be interesting, because you don't always want like one color of blue type of thing. So sometimes it's nice to like just kind of mix some other colors in there, give it a little bit of movement, and just play around with it. So this is going to look maybe a little bit different from the first one I did, but it's always fun to try different things. And usually when I do watercolors, I do like batches. So I do a few at once, like I work on several at the same time. I'd actually put a couple of papers on here to try a couple at once, but I'm just going to work on the one today. And then because I want to also do the tree. So, and I don't want to overwork it too much. I'm just going to play around with it. See, this is really, you know, I'm keeping it super simple, just playing around with it. I'm trying to, whoops, that's got a little bit too dark. So if it gets too dark, just pull it up a little bit. It's fine. Just in there. And we're just going to, yeah, see, we have this hair in here as well. I don't know what happened there. We're going to take that one out. Perfect. And then what you would want to do, see, it did bleed down there a little bit, but I think once it's done, it's going to be okay. And then we had that rock in there too. So what you could do is if you this is wet and you want to work on another one at the side, you can totally do that, because I do that a lot. Is if one is wet and I want to, you know, start working on another one, you can just go ahead and do that. So I can just get my big brush again, and even if you just want to go like really crazy with it and just like play, that's another thing you can do. You can just like slap some paint on there, and even if it doesn't work, it doesn't really matter, because you're just playing, right? So sometimes it's better to take the pressure off and just kind of play around with it and see what it does. So we're going to do that for this one. We're just going to play around with it. The yellow is pretty intense here, so we're just going to bring that in here. And I don't want to get it too green up there, but sometimes when you mix the yellow with the blue, it can get a little green. But this part is just like an exercise in playing with the paint. So that's always good to do, you know, with no pressure. So hi Tish, how are you? Good. So there we go. And we're going to go up here, just blend this in a little bit, and see, it is getting a little muddy. So that can happen. That can definitely happen. And if you want to like fix that up, you can always get a sponge and go in. There's lots you can do to fix it up. Just just play around with it, and sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, sometimes things get scrapped, but other times they can turn out really well as well. So then if we want to go down to the water and get some of the water bits in there, we can do that. Just play around. Yeah, so I'm trying not to worry too much about the final results. We're just going to play around with it and see, and it could end up being really stylized. And sometimes the more stylized ones end up being like super beautiful. So there's really, you know, no mistakes with art. You just play around with it and see where it goes. And this just has a different energy to it, you know, it's kind of fun. Stormy sky, yeah, it could be like more of a stormy sky. So I'm just gonna let that one dry a little bit in here. And then when we want to go back to this one of my favorite colors is called Payne's Gray. So here's my palette, whoops, and that's the Payne's Gray. So it's like a blue gray, and I use it a lot for abstract things, but also for more realistic things. So I'm gonna just grab a little bit of that and try to do like a little bit of a horizon. Now I probably should have drawn it out first because I didn't even think to like map it out first, but because it would be for the horizon, it would be nice to have a straight line. So, and this is going to be very, very abstract because I don't, you know, I'm not going to try to replicate exactly what I saw in the picture, but we're just going to kind of go in like that. And then it's good to have like different intensities of the paint. So I can always like leave it like that, and then I could go in after and do more of a thing. And I'm not going to actually draw the tree here. I'm going to show you this one again. Color pencils are fun too, yeah. So here's the tree. So I'm actually going to do the tree out of wire, but I want to block in the stone in there. So what I'm going to do is, this isn't quite dry, but I can maybe, let's see, sometimes I dry it with a hair dryer. So that's also something that I could do, but I'm gonna just like let it sit for a little bit, and maybe I could work on this one a little bit too. So this one, I don't want to do too much with this. Let's see what happens if I go into it while it's wet, because this one is my one I'm not too worried about, like if it gets a little bit scrapped. But say we decide to do like a kind of horizon thing, it could totally work, and it's just like a little bit more abstract, right? So it works. It gives it a little more definition between the sky and the foreground, which is really interesting. And then if we do want to do the stone thing, because at this point we've got nothing to lose, right? So we can just go ahead and work on the stone. It's really like blurred out, but once it dries a little more, I can go ahead and define it a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is just block out, it's like a little island that's in the water. So I'm just going to block it out. And then what I can do after is I can go in and fix it up a bit. So I'll just darken it up. It's very wet, so I'll just go in there. It's going to look like a bit of a blob, but I think once it's all together, it's going to be okay. So we're just going to block that out. And then we have the horizon kind of blocked out. And then what we can do is do the tree after. So these are my watercolor pencils. And I'm gonna, just to draw the stone, I'm gonna use a pencil out of here. So this set comes with blocks of color and the watercolor pencils. So it's a really nice set. I'm just gonna grab the black, and is that black? That looks black. I think it's black. And then we're going to draw out the stones. So let me get my picture again so you guys can see. And so here's the picture, and we're just going to draw the stone. So now we're just going to go ahead and draw the stone. If you need to sharpen your pencil, you can just get a regular sharpener to sharpen up the pencil. And then you can draw. It's still a little bit damp, but it's not too bad. I won't actually take the tape off until it's super dry. So now what you want to do is just see where your stone starts. Okay, so then you can just, I could have drawn it out before I started painting, but I decided just to do it after. So then we want to like kind of go up and then just kind of draw the outline. It's not going to be perfect because the photo isn't that clear to how it goes. I'll get the sort of outline of it, and then it's nice to do like kind of jiggly lines type of thing. So this is sort of the about what it looks like, and then I'm going to go in with my paint, so I don't really need to do much. But if you did want to say you wanted to do it with the watercolor pencil, it's an idea. You can go ahead and you can do like it looks black, like it looks totally black, but it's interesting if you give it a little bit more texture. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just put a little bit of this on here, and then I'll go ahead after and add a paint. So what I just love to draw. I could draw forever. It's my favorite thing to do. And that's why I love wire art, because it's like drawing with wire. So this, I'm just playing around with the textures and stuff. What would be really interesting would be to do some rubbing of textures, like we used to do in school. You'd go around with a paper and rub over different surfaces. I've done a few projects like that, and I'd like to do one painting project that's just really involves rubbing. That would be interesting. So I'm just playing around with these pencils, but I'm going to go in with the paint anyways, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just playing, I'm having fun with it. And then what you can do from there is get a smaller brush. So I'm just going to make sure I have a smaller paintbrush, maybe like this size. This is what does it say? A size 2 brush. So if you want to know the size, that's a size 2. Let's get our paint back. Now, I don't like black paint. I find it not a very, how do you say, a vibrant kind of like dynamic color, let's say. So I use Payne's Gray, which is like a blue gray type of thing. I really like it as a color, but this is black, so we're going to see what it's going to do with that. So I took a little bit of the Payne's Gray, and I'm just like kind of going around a little bit. And I don't want it to be like super, like completely dark either. So I'm just going to play with it. I'm going to see what happens, and then I don't want to be too like careful about it either. I just want to see what's going to happen when I put it over top of the watercolor pencils. So we're just going to bring it around here, and you'll see it makes some interesting kind of like different layers of color type of thing. And I'm just going with instinct. It's probably better not to overthink it. You just go instinctively when you paint. So we're just going to bring this around here, and then I will have to do some kind of shadow thing in the water to make it actually look like it's in the water. So we're just going to play around with it like that, and then darken it up a little bit, because it is definitely shadowy. Like the photo looks like it's all black, but I know that it's not. So we're just going to go in, play around with it, and then even like the background, the horizon too, we can kind of maybe bring it up closer to the horizon a little bit, because in the photo it is a little closer to the horizon. So we're just going to bring it up here and bring it there, and then I could even like darken up the line in the horizon too. So we can go in here, darken it up a little bit. It's quite dark in the original one that I did, so I could make it just to give it a little more oomph. We can just darken it up a little bit, bring that over here. And then we definitely need to do something in the water, because the water looks like it doesn't really fit anymore. So now I'm just gonna like really blob on that paint there to get that going. Now, so what I did here was just like little lines in the water to give the impression of the waves, because like you'll see in the photo, there definitely are like little lines and stuff in the photo. So we're going to do that. Local stone formation in Lake Huron, that would work. Ooh, that sounds amazing. I bet the group of 7 painted that, because the Canadian painters from the early 1900s were painting like Canadian landscape. So if you guys are interested in this type of landscape, look up the Group of Seven if you don't already know them, because they're like iconic Canadian painters that painted this type of landscape. So I'm trying to do like a little shadowy type thing as well, but then also you want to do kind of like little areas that look like the waves. So in that sense, I want them to be pretty like consistently across the like parallel to the horizon type of thing. So I'm just gonna do a few things like this and just play around with it. Turnip rock here. Oh, interesting. Just off the thumb of Michigan. That's so cool. Yeah, I haven't really traveled around Lake Huron. I think I probably went as a kid with my family because we used to do a lot of camping and stuff, but nothing that I remember. I remember going to Lake Superior and it being extremely cold. The Great Lakes are pretty cold, so but I haven't traveled there in a long time. And of course, Lake Ontario near Toronto, see that a lot. But yeah, so we're gonna just kind of do what looks like a bit. At some point I don't even look at the paint at the photo anymore because I'm just like playing around with it to see. So, and the idea with the paintbrush is you want to have different different pressure on it. So if I'm going lightly and then I push harder, lightly and push harder, and that's how you get the different like sizes of lines, by putting different amounts of pressure on your brush. So that's a little sort of a little hack thing. And then if you have too much color, just put a little bit of water and just pick it up a little bit. Like if you have an area that looks too dark, you can just like pick it up a little bit. That's no problem at all. So I want to try to get this whole piece done, and then I won't do another tree on this live stream, but I'll definitely like finish it up after the fact and put a picture in the community section. So this one got a little too dark, and I'm just going to go ahead and get more paint. And then if you have too much paint on your brush, just dip it on the sponge as well. So we're just going to go through there, get a little bit more, and I'm going to try to just finish off this scene at least. So we're just going to go through. So you'll see that it's not too important what your water looks like because already it's getting a little bit covered. If you have white bits that you want to cover up, you can. Although the white looks nice, I should have probably left more white areas to make it look like reflections on the water, but I didn't end up doing that. So that's another thing that you can keep in mind, is trying to keep some areas of the painting white, to have the white of the paper showing through, because you don't use white in watercolor. At least I don't. You don't actually use white paint in watercolor. So the idea is to get white, you have to leave some of the paper showing. That's what you need to do. Now I'm trying to like make the background ones like blurrier, because you really, to give it an illusion of depth, you would want the back ones to be more blurry and the ones in the foreground to be more defined. You know, that will give you a little bit more of an impression of depth. And then we're just going to do a few more here, and then we should be good to go. Just get a little bit more. And then we could do after that like more of a shadow type thing. So this is sort of your basic water thing, and then you want to get a little more shadowy there. So I'm just going to get a little bit more of the Payne's gray and then do what looks more like a shadow. Just kind of stick it in here, and then that way it looks a little more shadowy there. So just to give a little bit of an impression. And then now if my rock is not dark enough, we can darken up the rock a little bit more. So that's definitely something you can do as well. Just darken it up. Just get more of the Payne's gray in there. Try to give it a little bit of dimension. Okay, I'm gonna bring it there. Actually looks a little bit flat because it's like I have a straight on view. Maybe we should try to make it look like there's a little bit of a side view. So what if I wanted to get like a little bit of a side view there? I'm just going to lift up a little bit of the color. And then maybe what I could do, what might work, is just try to get a bit of a more darker piece, and then do a line to make it look a little more dimensional. So rather than looking totally flat, this is maybe here, we're going to bring down here. We bring it down a little bit, and then it kind of looks like, almost looks like a box. So we're just going to get it around here, and then that very subtly looks like it's more three-dimensional, because we have the top surface of the rock, the side surface of the rock, and I'm going to just define up here a little more too, because we were actually standing above the rock looking down because there's a pier. So you have to kind of go with what you know about the scene as well. So because I know that I was more above the rock, even if it doesn't show in the picture, I'm kind of going with the knowledge that I have about the scene to make it look more realistic. So yeah, we were kind of above it, looking over top. And then of course you're going to have I'm just going to dab that a bit. You're going to have the tree on top. So don't worry too much about your details, because you'll definitely, have your tree to cover up a lot of it. So we've got that. Bring that in there. Bring that in there. And I kind of like that there is some lighter areas as well. Like it's not like super dark. We could bring that up. And then maybe I'll just put a little bit more in the back. Actually, you have to try it. Yay! I would love it if you tried this scene. And then I have a few other scenes on the art channel as well. And I'm going to be doing more all the time. I mean, I adore paintings, so I'll definitely be doing a lot more of these. And I like doing the live streams too. And hopefully soon I'll be able to live stream on the art channel, because you have to have, I think, 1,000 subscribers or something. So that might take a little while. That's all right. And then if you want to like kind of just bring it all together, you want to blend this in a little more, you can do that. Like if you want some areas to be more shadowy, you can do that as well. And then up in the sky, I could add to it, but I think I don't want to touch it for now. So I think we're good. I'm going to leave it like that. And then after the live stream, when it's dry, I'll make another tree and put it on top. But in the meantime, we have this tree here.